Thanks for flying back into the crypto simulation. We had quite a nice plane flight. If you were on the AERO flight the past few weeks, I mean, look at this insane green candle from Aerodrome. So you'll remember that I did a video on this a little while ago advising that AERO was a very good entry. Of course, nothing that I do here is financial advice, and if you made that trade, that's on you. So congratulations on all the gains that you've made since that time. So it seems like AERO has come in for a little bit of a landing, and the question is this going to be a stopover on a way to a longer flight, or are we grounded for longer? And so that's what we're going to try to figure out tonight, because a lot of people want to know what is next for Aerodrome. Just a reminder to join my free Telegram group at the Snake Pit. I have a link in the description below. Currently, Aerodrome is trading at around 50.4 cents. After reaching an all-time high of around 67 cents just a few days ago. So are we in a major corrective phase right now, or are we just cooling off before we have another leg up? And that is an important question, and that's something that I would like to help answer, and we're going to have to look at a lot of different indicators to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull up some volume just to take a look at how buy and sell volume has been doing, as well as a volume momentum indicator. Keep in mind that we do not have a lot of data with this asset, so I'm going to rely mainly on the 4-hour time frame because of the limited amount of data that we have. One of the things you'll notice is that sell volume has really started to trail off. We had our first major sell on March 2nd, which is just yesterday, after a massive green buy candle on March 3rd. So this is really expected. You're not going to see an insane pump like this without some selling. But we are seeing the selling starting to cool off, and that is definitely a sign of some short-term strength. The Wyckoff volume indicator, we had a buy climax on February 27th, and then we had buy volume kind of trailing off since then, even though we were pushing higher, until we had some sell volume. And to be quite honest with you, this sell volume is not that impressive, considering how gigantic this buy volume was. So we are seeing we're definitely seeing a cool down for sure. And yeah, I mean, look at that huge selling climax on the 24th. That is really impressive. In my Telegram group, I posted an alert when we were at the 0.63 risk level on the beam. We did go as high as the 0.65, and we actually triggered my sell indicator, which worked perfectly. And then we have seen a decline. We are definitely not in the DCA zone. My DCA zone is all the way down here. And so the question is this going to continue to form the base of this mountain, or are we going to just keep going up and go way up here, which has happened with some coins. I mean, just because we put in a sell signal over here on March 1st does not mean that we're just simply going down and we're going to just crab around here. No, we could still go up. It is possible. And I'm seeing kind of a bowing in the shape of this graph, this kind of curve, and that's something AERO seems to like to do, is to do this like curving thing. So I'll point it out to you in a little more detail, but right now the risk metric is in the hold zone. So this is kind of like, this is your profit taking zone up here, and then down here is generally a hold zone, and down here is like a DCA zone, and sometimes you can even DCA in here. This is just my own risk metric that I use called the beam, so works out pretty well for me, especially on lower time frames like this. And I should remind you that I do not hold AERO. I do not have a position in AERO, so always important to disclaim that. So I drew that curved path, and if you watched my first video, you may actually remember that curved path, and I said AERO looks ready for blast off. And it's kind of curving around here again, so that should have us wondering what's next. I mean, could we be in for a dead cat bounce? Could we dump further? We're going to have to do a deep dive into some more technicals to get an idea of what might happen next. Viewed another way, we're in a flag, and you can see we've touched the top of this flag twice. We've also touched the bottom of this flag, you could argue, 2, maybe 3 times. And it's really anybody's guess which way this is going to break. So as far as structural technical analysis goes, there's not a lot of really great clues, except that in the past 2 days, people have not been eager to get rid of their AERO. That's one thing that's been pretty sure, and you can even, maybe argue we've got like this tiny double bottom on the 4-hour. So let's get under the hood and see what's going on with some of the other indicators. So after touching the top of the weighted logarithmic Bollinger Band 2 standard deviations above the mean, we came right down to the mean, but we haven't gotten down below it. We are riding the median line and straddling that as our Bollinger Bands are starting to close in, indicating that a big move is coming one direction or the other. So if we fit a linear regression channel on AERO, we can see that we basically started at the top of the channel, went almost down to the bottom, and then straight up to the top. That's a very strong move. And now we're just kind of hovering around the top. This isn't really providing me any clues as to where we might go next, although we do know we are most attracted to the median line. We did make it to about 2.5 standard deviation, more like 2.25 standard deviations above the mean. That's noteworthy. In terms of logarithmic regression, we can see that Aerodrome is such a strong asset. We only made it -1 standard deviations below the mean, and then we just blasted off. This reminds me kind of like of what Dogecoin tends to do, is you spend time just kind of grinding down sideways, and then just boom, all of a sudden you're putting in a high. We made it up to +2.5 standard deviations away from the mean, and now we're straddling the +2 line. I'm not ruling out that we could go a little bit higher here. I'm not ruling that out. It's just that I would think after such an impulsive move, we're going to need some time to cool off and come down a little bit. But that's just what I think. I need to find more confirmation of that in some of the momentum indicators. But it's nice to do a general overview here and, kind of see how far we've come. Aerodrome made it all the way up to +2.5 on the 4-hour logarithmic regression lines. The moving averages are stacked really nicely. This is on the 4-hour. But we can see that we've had a little bit of trouble here with this dump. Everything was stacked very nicely, as you would expect during a mania run. But then this really looks like a blow off top to me. I can't help but think that. It just looks like a blow off top. You see the 10, which would be the 40-hour moving average, kind of curling down. You can see a little bit of weakness starting to show on the 80-hour, and we're crisscrossed right now with the 80-hour just above the 40-hour, although I will tell you that price is above both of these at the moment. So that is something to keep in mind, but that doesn't mean that it will stay that way. We could curl right back down again. So this is what I'm seeing structurally. So we are in an area of moderate volume support on the 4-hour, okay, as you can see here. Anywhere between about 46 cents and just under 46 cents to around 53 cents, and we're right in the middle of that at 49.4 cents. If we can somehow get above here, it's clear skies. There's no resistance really at all. I mean, maybe a little bit here, but not much to speak of, and we could just blast right back off again. What I'm thinking is more likely, and yes, I'm aware we'd put in a higher low here, but I don't know. I'm just thinking we've started a downtrend, and that we're heading down. That's what just seems most likely to me. So maybe if I were to draw out a path, let me go ahead and do that. Now, don't take this too seriously. I mean, I'm not psychic, guys, and I can't predict exactly what this is going to do. But maybe what we see is a little bit of weakness followed by a burst of strength, but that just takes us to this trend line, and then maybe we just continue to come down. And I think we're at risk of capitulation. Once we get kind of into this zone here, I think it's just sliced right through pretty much, and maybe we find a floor somewhere in this range. That would be kind of my base case based on just what I am seeing. I gotta end this path. Just based on what I'm seeing here. I don't know. This just seems to make sense to me that people might start selling if they get impatient with the weakness that's in here. Maybe they get their hopes up on some buy volume, but maybe that just isn't enough. Okay, and then we start heading down towards the 382 fib, where there's a great deal of volume support, and it's also possible at some point we might even wick down here, but I'm not going to project that far ahead right now because that's quite a bit in the future, especially on a 4-hour time frame. And I don't even know that things will necessarily play out this quickly. And I do have to keep in mind I am on a 4-hour time frame, so this might take longer to play out than what I'm projecting, but this is the general path. just looking at this chart and just using my intuition, this is what I see. Now, I think I have exhausted most of the actual on-chart analysis that I can do. Let's take a look at some other things, such as the ADX and DI, average sentiment oscillator, and other risk metrics that I have access, or indicators that I have access to, and see if they may be telling a different story. There's no doubt about it, this is a weakening bull trend. You can see that the ADX has been coming down, along with these peaks being lower highs. And I mean, look, this could just explode back out again. It's possible, but I have to read what is in front of me right now. And this is telling me that this trend is weakening and that there's a potential for capitulation coming. It's just what I'm seeing. Let's go look at some other ones. Bearish divergence on the 4-hour ASO. Note that this does not have to be dramatic. It can just be a very short-lived bearish divergence, but we are seeing the formation of that at the moment. I wanted to come back on chart for a second and use one of my less reliable risk metrics for selling, very reliable for buying, and that's my OBOS indicator, which prints sell signals when certain conditions are met with the RSI, moving averages, and so on and so forth. Like I said, my sell signals are not reliable, but they do give you some insight into momentum. On February 27th, and we saw this earlier with another metric, our buy volume, this was our buy, it was a Wyckoff volume momentum indicator. We had a buy crescendo on that day, buying crescendo. And notice that I have the RSI set here at 90. That is you need an RSI condition, among other things, of 90 to trigger a sell signal. And that happened. We triggered it. So that tells me that we pretty much started running out of gas at that point. Yes, we put in another high, but notice I'm going to put on the parabolic SAR as well, so you can see that the parabolicness of this did start to weaken. So this is very strong parabolic behavior on the parabolic SAR, and you can see that the parabola here is a little wider. Now, of course, we're trending down. Nobody's in control right now, and this is why I think a capitulation is probably coming. If I had to guess, the bulls were in control from February 27th all the way, arguably, till March 3rd, which is today at midnight UTC. And since then, we're getting a little bit of bear dip. So if this comes down really far, then that's going to indicate that the bears are starting to take control. Of course, this could easily be invalidated if we just curve back up and we could head into a much higher trend. Notice that we did achieve peak bull momentum around 5.72 here. That was on March 1st. We've been banging up on the top of this, and now we're starting to get into the more neutral zone. Came back up again, but we have not printed a histogram bar, so we are in neutral territory. Gaussian filter MACD has printed a long signal. That is bullish. So that is something I'm taking note of. Remember, I spoke about the double bottom. We did just print a long signal. Look how high we went here. So we would expect to see, especially if these can start running parallel to each other, which it looks likely that they might, we can expect to see some follow through with price going up. But the question is, will this just end up being another lower high for the GF MACD? I think so. That's my guess. I don't think we're going to rocket off. I think we've already achieved maximum bullish momentum here, and I don't think we've had enough time to cool off to have another crazy bull run. I do think we could see a dead cat bounce, potentially a slightly higher high at best case scenario, but I don't think we're rocketing off past $1 or anything anytime soon. Again, just from what I'm seeing here. The Gaussian ribbon has started to, it's starting to shrink, which reflects the weakening of the bullish momentum. You can see it starting to shrink. Sometimes it'll shrink and it'll crimp and then take off again. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. But it's just kind of going in line with what I think, which is I think that our bull run for Aerodrome is mostly over. The KZX RSI has started to print bearish divergence. So that's another point for the bears that we are in a weakening trend. We're flirting, when we haven't gotten below 50, most capitulations are going to occur below there. But we are putting in lower highs. and trending down. And I don't know, I just don't see this coming back up again. Now you could argue, certainly there's always a way to make a counter argument. You can argue we're on this kind of trend line. I don't know, that's not my base case, but I'm just seeing bearish sign after bearish sign. This is the Mansfield RSI against Bitcoin, and you can see that we're also putting in lower highs on this as well. Now you could say we've got some pink bars forming on the MACD, indicating that maybe we're going to have a reversal pretty soon. And I did say we could get a dead cat bounce. I don't think we're going to be in for a big treat of tons of green. It is possible. And it's also possible we never even turn green. Maybe we just get some light pinks right back into the dark reds. So this is something to keep an eye on, but it looks like our moving average is kind of already peaked and now they're heading down. So we could see a lower high. I'm not ruling that out, but I don't know. I think this has to cool off for a while. On the 4 hour, we haven't had a break of structure or a change of trend show up all the way since February 26th when we went parabolic. So that's something to note. That is neither bullish nor bearish. It's neutral. Similar to the logarithmic Bollinger Bands, this is a Nadaraya envelope. Nadaraya-Watson envelope, and when we're in a parabolic move, we're usually going to be riding the top of it. This looks like a blow-off top. That's just what it looks like. And now, just like with the logarithmic Bollinger Bands, very similar kind of structure. We're straddling this, and it looks to me like we're on the precipice of a capitulation. It's just what it looks like. Okay, this is the money flow index oscillator volume profile. You can see that for a while here, we were putting in higher highs on the overbought, but then what happened? After that, we're now putting in lower highs. So could I see us get a little bounce up to here, but then keep coming down? Yeah, I mean, we haven't been oversold on this asset in a really long time. In fact, to find a time when we've been oversold, you'd have to go back to the very beginning. It's just been straight up. So my base case is we've got to come back down and be a little bit oversold for a while, because we certainly have been overbought. We've been overbought for quite a long time. We were overbought even in February for a brief moment. We were overbought February 24th, 16th, February 27th. We were overbought again on March 1st. So, but not quite as overbought. So you can see that the money flow index has been leaning bearish. This is the relative volatility index, or RVI. During parabolic moves, you see sort of a buildup and then a crescendo as you reach maximum bullish volatility, which was like at 90. And then we had this already looks like a dead cat bounce to 84. And we're just trending straight down. This does not look bullish to me. If anything, what I would anticipate is volatility to the downside starting to pick up. Some major moves, again. Capitulation. RSI and stochastic on the 4 hour looks bearish to me. You have the RSI trending down. Stochastic is trying to move up a little bit, but what if this just ends up being another lower high and we come back down into our capitulation? The RSI needs to be below 50 usually to get into capitulation mode, but it does look like it's heading in that direction to me. I'm not seeing this jump back up all of a sudden. That's not at all what I'm seeing. I could be wrong. I could be very wrong, because we can make an argument that it's something like this, right? And maybe we're also reversing on the RSI too. I mean, this is a 4 hour chart. These are extremely difficult to analyze and get right. But what if it's something like that? I don't think so. It's not my base case. Do I think the stochastic will come back up? It's coming back up right now. We see the GF MACD printing a trigger buy. So yes, I expect some recovery, but I think that's going to be rather short-lived. Snabble RSI is an exponential version of the regular RSI, which is the first derivative of price. We had bullish divergence for quite some time, heading like that, and I am seeing, and I've already, this is kind of redundant, so I, apologize if you're getting tired of seeing kind of the same thing over and over again, but I think it's important to get confirmation, especially on something this tricky, right? It is tricky right now, so we need to look through all our indicators. I am seeing, and look, there's another lower high right here. I'm seeing RSI starting to weaken. We did a double bottom below 50, And I think that's just the beginning. I think we need to spend some time down here. This is the TRIX, or triple exponential moving average. Very, very bullish up to March 2nd, but it looks like it peaked and now it looks like it's heading down. We can expect to see, this bounce up. It really doesn't become bearish until it goes below zero. Okay, we see price trending down. So it could be a few days if this, or maybe we just come down, come back up. I don't know, but this looks bearish for now. We can look at the other TRIX indicators. The TRIX bubble is printing some bullish divergence. It did dip below the zero line, which is concerning, and you can see that we did put in lower highs on the. This is the 20-hour SMA. Okay, so 20-hour SMA in green, and then some other SMAs that are a little bit bigger than that, all the way to the 10. It does not look bullish to me. Yes, there's bullish divergence, but again, I don't see this like shooting off to the upside. TRIX histogram just heading straight down, so bearish until proven otherwise. We did have a little bit of bullish divergence on the wave trend, Northern Lights indicator, and so we are seeing some of the moving averages start to move up again. The coronal moving average is printing a little bit of green, but my base case for this is just a lower high, and that's consistent with other observations that I've made. I think our parabolic run, is pretty much right here. So I think we could see this turn up for a little while, only to come back down again. That's my base case. My wave trend oscillator's already called the top, and it's basically saying, yep, we're heading back down. So this is yet another bearish sign. So my forecast for Aerodrome is a correction and ensuing capitulation after one last hypothetical dead cat bounce. I mean, there may be others, but I think that this will be the last one where people think that we're going higher, only to come back down again. And look, I still believe that Aerodrome is a solid long-term hold. You don't have to sell it, but you do need to prepare yourself for periods of boring price action. It had a very long period of boring price action before this leg up, and the fact is most assets do. Most assets spend most of their life in boring price action. And what goes up must come down. So that is my base case. If I'm wrong about this, then I'll have to go back and learn about why I was wrong, and you're welcome to disagree with my analysis in the comments or come to my Telegram and disagree there. So if this correction does play out, where should we be looking for a hypothetical accumulation zone? So let's answer that question next. So if I had to just take a guess, I'd say we're kind of at the base of the profit-taking zone right now for people who want to take profits. And this region, which ranges from about just under 20 cents to around just under 30 cents, I would say would probably be a good long-term accumulation zone if I had to guess. Now, there's no guarantee we make it down this far. There's no guarantee that we don't go right back into the profit-taking zone or even go above it. I'm just telling you what I feel is most likely based on my thorough analysis across many different indicators, both on chart and off chart, and all kinds of momentum metrics, my own intuition. I'm seeing a correction that takes us into this accumulation zone playing out. Thank you for returning to the Crypto Simulation Flight Center with me today as we prepare for a potential departure of the Aerodrome plane. But don't worry, after it's been grounded for a little while, it will lift off again. So all of these price predictions and price information, all this stuff is strictly speculative based off of my best interpretation of the data. You should do your own research, and you should not just blindly trade what I tell you. None of this is financial advice. It is for educational and entertainment purposes only. And just a reminder, please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and hit the notification bell to be notified of my future videos. Helps get the word out there. And be sure to join my free Telegram group at the Snake Pit. We would love to have you there. I'm very active in that chat. And there's some other great alpha that we share in there as well. So until next time, have a safe flight.